Here we come once again. Welcome, everybody. It's that time again. Time once again for conversations.
Yes,
here.
it is.
Pam David, I'm with you. And once again, welcome,
Yes,
welcome,
we
welcome.
We are here.
We
Hello.
are here. Glad to have everybody with us. Hopefully, you get settled down for the evening, Saturday evening, gone through all the wonderful, exciting things you've had to do today.
Yes.
And they're ready for a good conversation, right?
Exactly. Yes.
My queen here, African style. All right, looking good.
Yes, darling, you're a queen.
Yeah, it's Black History Month, as everybody knows. And of course, we are celebrating that and many, many more things. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. Glad to have everybody joining in with us again, giving a few people a few minutes to connect up. And don't forget to shout out, say hello, wave something so we know you're out there and with us tonight. And if you have any topics that you would like to discuss, by all means, bring them into the conversation.
Yes.
You can reach out to us by either commenting on the watch page that you're on, or you can also call us, get directly involved. You got an opinion, you got something you want to say, you want to hear about it, feel free to give us a call. Area code 951-799-9032. The number is on the page here. If you see it in the comment, if you go that far, I'll just add it just in case you need to see a little bit closer.
Yes.
Us 951-799-9032. Pop that up there, and then it's right at the top of the comments on the church page. If you forget the number or you decide you want to join, because sometimes people get a little wild up.
Yeah.
And then they want to say something, then they call, right? So you can call us anytime.
Yes. Don't wait till the end.
Yeah, don't wait till the last 2 minutes.
A lot of times we get calls right at the end.
Certain people.
Yes, certain people. Yeah.
Certain people we love in the door.
Yes.
And likes to call us 2 minutes and then have a conversation. But no. You can join us anytime throughout.
Anytime.
You got something to say, wave at us, say hello, comment, whatever the case may be. Another great week here in Rochester in the United States.
Yes.
And all kind of things continue on. Hopefully it's gone well for you. This week, you can let us know how things are going. From your perspective, it just seems like it's a lot quieter these days.
It really does. And, I have to say it's rather refreshing.
Yeah.
I
don't know, refreshing or scary.
Because we don't know,
right.
what's going on behind the scenes.
It's like, with a volcano, things happening
underneath the undercurrent and it bubbles up. Yes, and explodes.
And then everybody knows. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what's going on yet.
Yeah.
But, it seems, one thing without hearing, Donald Trump's name in the press every day.
Without hearing his voice on the television, without seeing his face. I think for the past 4 years, I don't think I have yelled and talked back to the TV as much as I have within the past 4 years of his former presidency.
Well, it's probably a good thing you weren't following his Twitter account.
Oh, no. I'm glad that I didn't.
That would have probably been ugly.
Yes. Well, I heard enough about his Twitter.
It's
his tweeting.
But it's just, something stirred up every day, every week in the paper. Something was coming up, bubbling up, some controversy, some just out of nowhere, just craziness going on. I mean, the stress levels, as if we didn't have enough going on, right? As if there wasn't enough things that were kind of driving people half crazy. And when I say half crazy, I mean literally,
sending people into depression,
anxiety.
And I hate to say it, but people have been suicidal.
Absolutely. They have been not only suicidal, many have been successful.
Exactly. That's very sad.
These past 4 years were quite the stirrup.
Traumatic.
And then last year, the fourth year with coronavirus over the top of it, it just seems like it just got more and more extreme and crazy. So it's
just bubbled over.
It's been quite a time. So
hey, hi Tori. Tori says hi Tori. So glad to see you. That's my girl. Yeah. Yes, Tori says I am no longer anxious when the new president speaks. He says she feels more at peace. That's true, Tori. I think a lot of people feel more at peace.
It has been quite a journey the past few months. So, it's been the past few years. So it's relatively quiet, but it's actually kind of the way it used to be.
The way it should
it's just
be.
kind of back to normal.
Yes.
Because those 4 years were just not normal.
No, they were quite abnormal.
At least when it comes to presidency and just so much disturbance, so much chaos going on over the top of things. And, it's crazy when you look at the different opinions and perspectives of the past 4 years and how some people see that as monumental change for the good. And then others just see it as just chaos, right?
Well, that's what it was.
It
was chaos.
So now it's a little quieter. It's not completely quiet. There's still a lot of things going on. This week is impeachment week.
So yes, we'll have some more.
You'll hear some more Trump calls.
Hear some more voices.
He's already been impeached. This is the week. Hey, Heather, good to see you. Hello, thank you for waiting.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
This week we will see a bunch of, this is the case. It's being tried now in the Senate.
Yes.
Starting on Monday, I believe the 8th.
Yes.
Right. And
exactly.
so it's uncertain yet how long it's going to go. It usually doesn't go on more than a few days. Well, sometimes it does, but I think they really want to get this over. And there's a lot of debate whether they're going to have people come in and testify. If they testify, this thing go on for a long time.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Because this is all about what happened, the insurrection that happened on the 6th. So there's a lot of police officers who were there.
Yes.
There were a lot of all kinds of people.
Officials.
Right?
Yes.
Even the congressmen and senators themselves, family members.
Yes.
There's so many
military
stories.
people
Who were at the rally before it started. So if they bring in testimonials, this thing on both sides will just could go on for a good long while.
Yes.
So I haven't heard yet whether they're allowing that or not going to allow that. They'll probably finalize that on Monday. I don't think they will, because I think both sides have an interest in getting this over and done with. And the reality, sorry everybody, but the reality is he's probably not going to be indicted. It's like highly unlikely that they will vote to put him out of office, right? Because the statement has already been made by the Republicans that 45 out of the 50 have already voted that this is unconstitutional.
Yes.
And this is why the strategy has been so important, because, last week, like right after we went off the air or something like that, announcement came out that all 5 of Trump's lawyers quit.
Wow.
All 5 that were supposed to be defending him, they all quit simultaneously. We're done. And the reason was because he was saying that he wanted them to bring up all the stuff about how they stole the election. And his legal reps were saying, that is not what we want to bring in this case.
No.
We want to bring this case that it's unconstitutional, because 45 of the senators have already said they believe it's unconstitutional. So if they said that and they take a vote on it, on whether they should put him out, they're going to say no, because they say it's unconstitutional anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
Why is he so stuck on trying to prove that they stole the vote? So far, there has been no evidence.
It's like a dog with a bone.
He just gripped, hanging on to it.
He refused.
Well, he doesn't want to lose.
Well, I mean,
he lost.
It's psychologically, I don't think he can let go of the fact that he lost.
Right.
But he wants to bring it into this, and they're like, look, that's not the important thing right now. The important thing is that you get off, and the way you get off is aligning with the Senate. Because here's the problem: if they bring in the discussion about the election and all that stuff, it's going to tie into more of. And he tries to use that as his rationale. It's going to tie into more of the things that they're going to come back and say, that was false. These are false rumors, false allegations.
Exactly.
This is the whole reason why it's your fault, because you keep pushing these crazy lies and stories.
Lies.
And so that could actually cause some of those senators to say, you know what? He hasn't learned his lesson yet. We got to vote against him. So that's a worse strategy than going with this. So all 5 lawyers quit. A couple of days later, he hired 2 more guys, and these guys, guess what they're going to fight? They're going to fight that it's unconstitutional, because that is the strategy that has the potential to get him off. And if they do that, and if Trump stays out of it and doesn't do anything crazy during the thing, more than likely he will get off and he will not be voted out, because they need 17 Republican senators to vote against him. And it's not likely to happen unless something completely crazy happens this week.
Anything could happen.
But anything can happen. Yeah. So we'll all be watching to see.
What we have witnessed, anything could happen.
I mean, just blow up, just boom.
Boom.
You never know.
Day by day, minute by minute. So we really don't know.
We will be watching.
Exactly. Right. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and we're like, well, let's see what happened overnight. Let's turn on the TV.
That. We have everything on recording all day. We're recording
exactly.
everything. You got to see what in the world goes down. So it could be over quick. It could go on a long time. Probably will be over fairly by the end of the week. And he will probably not be convicted of, he probably will not be put out of office. He's out of office anyway.
Well, he's out of office. Right.
The reason that's important is because if they voted him out of office
a second time,
then comes a vote. No, this will be the first time he'd actually be voted out. If they really voted him out, then there's a second question of should he not be allowed to ever take office again?
And is that the point? That's the point, isn't that? This is why they want him impeached a second time.
Right. And that would follow his being actually put out.
Right.
If he doesn't get put out, then that doesn't necessarily come up.
Right.
But if he gets put out, then that comes up, and that only needs a 50-50 vote. So that's an easier hill to climb.
Right.
So if they actually get Republican senators to vote him out, which they won't do. If they do, then comes the vote, should he never have office again, which is a much easier hill to climb.
You mean, what are you saying? Any political, governmental office?
Right. Presidential specifically. I don't know if it's just any. I don't know exactly the details.
Well, to run for president, don't you have to run consecutively?
Nope.
He can run again in the next.
Yep.
Just say he's alive.
2024. It's happened before. It's happened before in U.S. history where president was president, left office, and then several years later came back and ran for another term. So it has happened. It is legal to do that. So he could be running again for 2024. We'll know in a couple years. That should be fun. Wow. So we'll see what happens. But aside from,
unless he's incarcerated, unless he's actually indicted.
Scenario
on
that
then
could possibly happen.
That like I said, anything could happen.
The story goes on and on and on.
Right.
Yeah, that's another scenario.
It doesn't seem to stop.
Tori's is a bad reality TV show.
It really is, Tori.
I'm curious to see how this will play out.
You know what? They've already told him that he's fired.
Right.
However,
we told him actually.
He doesn't want to believe it. We, the people of the United States of America, we have dismissed him. However, he is like a reoccurring decimal. He just keeps popping up.
And the thing is, he has still such political power.
He does.
Because he's got a lot of money.
A lot of money.
He's got a lot of followers.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not even just his money.
Right.
He's actually
raised and he's making money. Exactly.
Yeah. Still raising money.
Still raising money. Isn't that something?
So, he has a lot of money. He has a lot of followers. And it really makes a lot of people in the Republican Party afraid to basically do anything really negative against him.
Exactly.
And so that being the case, he still has a lot of power and influence.
He does.
So what will happen over the next few years is definitely undetermined. The only thing he lost that he doesn't have power over is Twitter.
They shut him down.
Shut him down. Shut him down.
I almost said something, but I won't. I won't.
You're on the air.
Yes. No, it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't bad language.
I'm sure
it was just a nice.
I'm sure
it was just another way of saying it.
Some little commentary, I'm sure.
I was going to be rather diplomatic.
Oh well, okay. Let's call it that. Let's call it that. All right, diplomatic. Different.
Diplomacy.
Another perspective. Okay, so anyway, we talked about him enough. Let's move on. Let's move on to one of his little comrade follower friends, this Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes, tell me about her.
Would you like to know about her?
Yes. Please do elaborate.
Would you guys like to know about her?
Yes.
You probably already know about her. I mean, so people again, you got some comments. So here's the deal. It's like this. What is this? State Farm commercial now? You come up. Here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
Okay.
This woman is a very strong advocate of Donald Trump, a very conservative Republican who believes really in kind of many of the similar extremities that he does. Have you ever heard this group QAnon?
Yes. The guy with the horns.
No, well, that's not the guy.
That's not the guy. But it wasn't. He's part of.
He's supposedly part of it. He claims to be something. But the idea of QAnon is that there is some unknown, unrevealed person that is somewhere in the inners of Washington, D.C., and has all the knows of all the different things that are going on. And so QAnon is they call him this committed American, red-blooded American person. He loves America. And so as a result of that, he's spilling out all these top secrets that nobody knows about of things that are happening behind the scenes in the government, particularly amongst the Democrats. And so he starts all these different rumors of things that the Democrats are doing. One of the most extreme was whoever he is, if he even exists. This rumor goes out that that Democrats in Washington are actually doing slave trade with children. Now, I'm not saying they're not, by the way, but I'm saying this guy, I don't know what, these kids are going somewhere. That's all I'm saying.
They are going somewhere, and it's very sad, and it is very disturbing.
But he points this directly to the Democrats, and Democrats in Washington are responsible for slave trade to the extreme that in one case, a couple of years ago, they were spreading a rumor that there was some kind of a shop, it was food shop, hair shop, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a pizza shop, actually. And they were saying in this pizza shop in Washington is where the kids are being housed, in the back of the pizza shop. And some guy drives from somewhere in the South, comes up with guns in tow, comes in, breaks into the place with machine guns, saying, I'm here to break out the kids. You guys can't be holding these kids here. And the guys are they're making pizza. Like, what are you talking about? Right, he's got guns on him. He's going through the place. He's going through the back. Take me where the kids are. Please come take them away. No kids there, right? But these rumors have been started, and they believe them. That's the point. People
believe rumors, and that's a dangerous thing.
I mean, to the point where they will bring guns and drive all the way from wherever up here and go in this place bearing guns. Nobody else is going to save these kids. I got to do it. And here's the point. They think they're doing the right things.
Yes.
They think that they're believing the right things, and they're responding to try and do whatever they can do to do the right thing, but they're being so misguided. So Miss Taylor Greene is amongst those who are supporters of people like QAnon. She has been recording lots of things like QAnon is a faithful United States, loving, red-blooded citizen, and all these other rumors and things that Trump has been saying about how the elections were fixed and all these other things. She's absolutely a supporter of all those. She has accused Nancy Pelosi of being guilty of treason, and going out in public and saying that treason is a punishment that is punished by death.
Did she forget about number 45?
She ain't talking about him. She's on his side.
That's what I'm saying.
She's saying Pelosi should, she said out in public on campaign trails that she's guilty of treason. Treason is punishable by death, and blah, blah, blah. And then so she spreads all this. And the African American and women of color in Congress, she has put up posters with machine guns. She's got a machine gun and pictures of them on the poster. I mean, all this kind of stuff that she's done. So you have these people, her fellow Congress people, who are saying this woman is dangerous.
Yes.
Right? She's radical. She's telling all these people all this stuff, supporting all this. And should she even be amongst us, because she's gonna get somebody killed? Right? That's their concerns, right? Seriously. And so they wanted the Republicans to do something about it. She had a couple of committee seats, right? And that's one of the big things. That's where the power is in Congress, is being on these different committees, from being on certain committees to being chairman of the committee. That's where the power and influence comes in. And so if you're in Congress, if you're in the Senate, your objective is to get on certain committees that carry certain power through them and certain amounts of money through them. That's the way the system works, right? You are a strong senator, a strong congressman, if you are in control of these different things. Right now, one of our senators, Schumer, is now the majority leader and leads the Senate, the most powerful senator in the country. So that influences New York and what New York can get. Right? Yeah. So anyway, she's on these seats, and they decided, Pelosi and the Democrats are saying, look, you guys got to do something about this woman. You got to either get her to calm down, you got to get her to apologize, to deny all these rumors, or you have to handle it. You need to discipline her.
Yes.
And so she sent them off to do that. They went around and talked to her. She said some things to them, and so they let it go. And they're like, no, you're not gonna let this go. right? This woman is trying to get us killed. Right. And you're talking about just not doing it. You've got to do something.
Yes.
So since they didn't do anything, they took it before the whole Congress and they voted to take away her Senate seats. So they can't put her out of office, but they took away basically all the power. Now she has a vote, but that's, she's one of 400 or 500 congressmen. So the influence she has now gets diminished dramatically.
Okay.
And so the question now becomes, should she be allowed to stay as in Congress at all? As dangerous as she is, right? Should she be allowed to stay at all? First of all, was it the right move for, the Republicans didn't do anything. So the full Congress, which is majority Democrats, took it up in a vote and they voted to take away her seats. Is that the right thing to do? Here's the question does she have a freedom of speech? Even though what she believes, hello, Gwendolyn, even though what she believes.
Oh, my cousin. Hi, Gwen.
Even though what the things she believes and says may be obscure, does she have a right to speak what she wants to speak and still be a member of Congress, still have her, congressional seats that she's been elected to, et cetera, so forth? Is it right to just take her out of her those positions, or is the right thing to do? I mean, if just because she believes things that are different, does it give you the right to say, you know what, we're going to shut you down? What do you think? What do you think?
Somebody, anybody.
Comment, anybody. Y'all quiet right now. What do you think? Do you think that they did the right thing, or did they have every right to do it? Now, one thing I would say while we're waiting for y'all to respond to this, right, is they can't put her, I don't think they can actually put her out of office. I won't say they can't, because I think under certain circumstances they can. But I think it's only if she's done something truly illegal, like a felony type of offense, then I think they can. But I don't think they can technically vote her out of Congress. But she eventually is going to have to face the people in her congressional district. The real question is her district full of people that believe like her, who voted her in knowing what she was all about? Or are they now feeling, embarrassed and offended and will not vote her in again? So we'll see what happens there over the next 2 years. I think she'll come up again in the next 2-year elections, and we'll see. They might vote her back. If she's in a really strong and conservative, one of these tight areas, because remember, Congress is about representing a certain district, a city, town, region, area, and she could be in an area where, they're all thumping, Trump supporters,
they're all
whatever
for
it says. And so she might still
Very
be voted right back in.
It's a possibility.
That is an interesting aspect of how this nation is set up, because it's supposed to be about representation for all.
Right.
And so you're going to have people who are extreme to the right, extreme to the left. And when they populate together in one area, they have the opportunity of having a representative.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2 years. But, what do you do with her now? It seems like she's gotten a little quieter. But yet after they took her seat away, she walked right back out and started blasting
the same thing.
Who voted to take her out. So has she really learned anything? Is she really changing? Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, those things, they don't change that easily. Once you have a certain mindset and something that you're born and raised in, and you have these concepts and these ideas about the way things should be, they don't change very easily.
Not very quickly.
Not very quickly. It's and if it does change, it's quite a process. And I think right now, America, I think we are going through a process of change. I think that things will, I don't know if it will be in our lifetime, if we will actually see everything come to fruition. But I think right now we are in the process of change for a simple fact that a lot has been revealed that we had just America put a Band-Aid over. It's like putting a Band-Aid over cancer. And it's like it was pulled off and you've got this big wound that we can see that never healed. So I think that these things are being addressed more so now than they have been in the past.
Well, it just brings everything to the light.
It really does.
And so now, it's like a bloodbath again, because you look and see all this stuff that's pouring out, just all these reminders, of different things that are going on, have gone on, people still would like to see going on.
Exactly.
Here in Black History Month in particular, there's a lot of stuff that's being shared online that talks about Black history.
Yeah.
And I find that in the past, a lot of what you hear about when you hear about Black history is the positive side of it. You hear about this person that, Thurgood Marshall and George Washington Carver and these people, there's a lot of push to try and bring out the positive influences and say, hey, there were African Americans involved with this, did great things. I haven't heard as much in the past about a lot of details of the things that happened to Black people. But this year, there's been a lot of these things coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Reminding of situations, conditions, things that happened to Black people.
Yes.
Not just talking in terms of slavery, but
right.
if you look at the time frame, the 100 years between abolition of slavery, emancipation,
right.
and this generation from like 1870, right around that time is when, abolition came, 65, I think, to 1965. Those 100 years, I mean, there was some rough, crazy stuff that went down.
Yes.
And, there was something on actually a couple of weeks ago about Ulysses S. Grant. Everybody knows that he was the general. Everybody should know. He was the general on the Union side under Abraham Lincoln, later became president of the United States. And it talked a little bit about what happened when Lincoln died and after Grant became president. And in that time frame, there was a lot of weird and interesting transitions that were going on with Black people who were being freed, from at first being freed and truly being treated like they were free, and taking on offices in their local governments, in state offices, and even in the Congress. You had Black congressmen. I never realized that. You had Black congressmen back then in the late 1870s. And so you had this rush of people who were standing up in these rights, because I'd always thought, they were freed but didn't know it and then just kind of stayed. And some did. But a lot of these areas, these Black people were really being progressive. They were setting up representation because they were voting. And we thought they weren't. They were voting in their own local areas, and you had all these Black people that were standing up and stepping up. But then came, when they started stepping into positions, there were a lot of Southern white people that were very angry.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And they started stepping in and threatening their lives, threatening their homes, their families,
exactly,
burning stuff down, killing people.
Yes. Right? There was a point where Black people during that time, there were towns that were very progressive because they created and they developed their own, their own communities.
Right.
They developed everything that they needed to survive. They had their own stores. They had their own schools, which
their own towns.
They had their own towns, their own townships, and they were actually thriving.
Right.
However, there's a jealousy is a very cruel thing, and they came in and they burnt the people, they burnt them out. It's like there's a movie Rosewood. If you could watch, that was one of those towns. Black Wall Street.
Yeah,
that was another place. However, my mom and I talk a lot about these things, and she says those were not the only townships that Black people developed and created that were burnt down. She said there were actually quite a few communities like that.
Oakland was another place in the state of Oakland, and because a lot, it ties back to even the Civil War, because I learned a lot from watching that movie about Grant, because there was the Northern War and the Southern War. There was a Northern War around Virginia and those areas, which we know, Gettysburg, all the way up as far as Gettysburg. That was all kind of the Northern War. And then there was the Southern War, which was closer into the Mississippi River and reached over from Mississippi and right about Oklahoma. There were Black soldiers that came to the war in Mississippi. I can't remember the city that they were trying to get, because it was a city where a lot of transport came through because of the Mississippi and the trains. And Black soldiers came and fought on the western side of Mississippi to keep the support of the Union Army from coming and defeating. This was Grant before he took over everything.
Right.
And so those Black soldiers were part of what ultimately became in Oklahoma, Black settlements. And that's why I even got family in Oklahoma. I didn't realize a lot of family, and I didn't realize why. But Oklahoma became an area where a lot of Black people settled.
Exactly. They kind of like migrated that way.
And it was a little further away from. They got out of the deep South. They had areas they could go and kind of isolate for them on their own. And so it
was like an exodus.
Right. So you had a time frame in there not long after the war where a lot of Blacks had started really becoming progressive, demonstrating that they could exist and survive and compete, etc.
Well, we're survivors, yes.
But then the Black South came, or the White South got really upset and started really just viciously attacking, destroying them. And so you were looking for the North again to come and help, and there were calls from the Southern government saying, look, we need you guys to come help because we can't control this. That's with the first time the KKK rose up, the North came down and put them down.
Yes.
And so the Blacks and the whites in the South were able to continue on, and the KKK had been defeated. But then the second time they rose up, the appetite of what was at that point the Democratic Party in the North was not into getting into another war with the South. And so this was when Grant was president. This is probably about 5 or 6 years later. And they didn't have the appetite to support it. They didn't want to spend all their money, time, send their people down to help with Southern problems again. And so they ignored it. Grant decided not to send the government, the soldiers down. And that's when the KKK all out took over, because nobody would come down to defend. So the KKK took over, they mercilessly destroyed all these townships, all these people that were in government officers and things like that. They tore all that down. And so that's when you get into things like Rosewood. Rosewood is a crazy story. Rosewood is in Florida. And the reason it's important is because it still ties to today.
Yes.
The people of Rosewood was a primary Black city that had become very successful.
Community. Yes.
The story is that in and around the area, in the community, there was a Black man who was in prison who had escaped. Simultaneously to him escaping, there was a white woman that claimed that a black man had raped her. And so the white people in that town, in that area, went on this crazy fit. They're going to find somebody, and they knew it had to be this guy. So they were looking for this guy that escaped, and they sent out all kind of people, and they ended up going through Rosewood, and they were claiming that they were hiding them, and they knew where he was, and they started killing people to try and find this guy, even though they had nothing to do with that with this woman.
Yes.
And so they ended up burning down the whole town and killing a bunch of people, and a few people survived. Today, a lot of people may or may not know this, but they're still doing reparation to the survivors of Rosewood. They get free scholarships, things like that today, because of what happened back then. They're one of the rare cases where something like that happened. And so, I don't know how we got into all this, but we were talking about, in terms of Black history, all these things. I was saying that you don't hear as much about all these things that Black people had to go through for that 100 years until you finally get into the 60s and the civil rights. We hear about civil rights.
Yes.
Right here, Martin Luther King, all those things forward. Black Panther now, some things coming out in that again. We hear about those things. But there was 100 years where the brutality against Black people was just horrendous. And how they were treated. And the issue, the reason it ties to today is because a lot of what you see coming out is the same kind of mindset and vicious anger that took place during those times. That's the whole reason for bringing this up, is because it's like reflected again. It's rising up again. We said the first time the KKK came in, they were put down. And they were made to be quiet, but they didn't go away.
Right.
And then the second time they came up, nobody came down to resist them, and they just took over. Right. And so now here you have that same mindset coming up again.
Exactly.
And again, if nobody does anything, they just keep coming.
It's just like the devil.
It's just
another strategy. He doesn't go away. He might be quiet, but he will resurface.
And it is amazing that lingers. Generation after generation, this bitterness that Black people are all my problem. right? Instead of dealing with your own stuff and working your own way, Black people are the problem. We got to deal with these Black people. These Black people want so much. They try to do so much, and they think they're as good as us. Blah, blah.
Well, it's still a mindset where they believe that Black people have to be controlled, where they are the superior being, and that we are not, and they want to control and keep us subservient.
You know what? If they had left us where they found us,
well,
we would have had these problems right now.
But you know what?
They just left us where we were.
Yeah, but you know what? It's too late.
We blame each other.
We survived the Middle Passage.
It's amazing.
And we are still here.
It's amazing. So when we talk about Black history, I mean, the relevance of it, this is why some of it is so important. There's so much that a lot of our people don't understand, don't know. And, again, if you don't address these things, they'll come back. Because these, unfortunately, sorrowfully, these spirits, these mindsets are still amongst us.
Yes.
And it's just like, look, you do you, let us do us, right? You work hard and do well, let us work hard and do well. This is what this country is supposed to be about. You work hard, you take advantage of your opportunities, you get successful, you help your children along, etc.
And that's what it's supposed to be.
But when you want to put this one down because, hey, I don't want them to have the same chance I have or I have.
Right. Well, you know what? From slavery, from the time they put the Africans on the ships and brought them over here to enslave them, the system was not designed for the Africans. They were not slaves, for the African people to survive. It wasn't designed for that.
Or to be even equal in society. Or
to be equal, exactly.
Right.
We were not supposed to be where we are today. We're not supposed to be educated. It just wasn't designed. It wasn't intended for us to be.
But you know the amazing thing about slavery is slavery always involves having more slaves than you have of your own people. Whenever there's slavery, you always end up having more people as slaves than you have of your own, which always puts you in a vulnerable position. And then it becomes a threat, right? It happened to the Jews in Egypt. It's happened throughout history. You take slaves, you make people slaves, and then you end up with more of them than you have of your own. And they end up obviously more diligent, harder working, more risk, so they're more ready to take risks because they have more at stake.
Yes.
Right. And so it's a losing long-term proposition. It never works out.
Yes.
But let's flip the switch. Yes. So we wanted to talk, got about that a little bit. I was quiet. So we better, somebody said, Heather said, be sure to tune in PBS this month in your area for Black history.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot. There's a lot of interesting things out there. And we need to learn it and understand it so that we don't make the same mistakes and so that we do the right thing. So anyway, I want to talk more locally about some of the stuff that's going on here in Rochester. For those of you who are elsewhere, we keep making the national news in ways we don't want to.
Not in a good way. Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. Hopefully we have the opportunity to be an example of how to correct some of these things, but there's some things that have been going on now here. We had a young lady that was handcuffed and pepper sprayed, 9 years old. Right. And, she was emotionally disturbed. Some things that happened between her mother and father. And so I think her mother called because the child was running away.
Yeah,
they wanted
she was a bit upset.
Right. And so they went to help her, and in going to help her, I guess when they were doing okay with her until her mother showed up or something like that. And then she started getting unruly. Now, y'all know today kids get unruly, right? In your own home, you don't pepper spray them.
Exactly.
Right.
And she was frightened.
Yeah. And so she got, a little upset about things that were going on. And so she was a little bit out of hand. They were trying to get control of her. Now, I heard I saw somebody, I think it was Sean Nelms was saying that a 9-year-old is never a threat. How is a 9-year-old going to be a threat to multiple policemen?
Men.
Standing around.
Grown men.
She was a threat. We need to calm down the threat. Come on now. And in handcuffs. I don't know how much of a threat she could possibly be.
But she kicked at them.
So they pepper sprayed her. And, so there's been a whole uproar on this. So there's immediate kick response here. There's a state bill that's been put out already that would disallow police from using chemical irritants on children. I don't know what the ages are on that, but this is one response to the bill. The thing that's still kicking me is we keep talking about all these terrible things that are happening from the police, and we keep trying to put Band-Aids on it, right? Instead of dealing with the whole problem holistically, it's kind of, Oh, this came up, so let's put a Band-Aid on that. Oh, this came up, let's put a Band-Aid on that, right? From Daniel Prude, let's put a Band-Aid on how we handle that, to, now chemical irritants, let's deal with that. Why don't we deal holistically with what is going on with policing,
right,
and how people should be handled and treated from the bottom up, right? You go from the fundamental how people should be treated,
right,
and then work your way up from there. And it needs to happen on a macro scale. It can't just happen in one area, one precinct, one city. These things are bigger and broader than that. So hopefully what's happening here, for example, we put in this bill here, right, for kids here. What about the kids in Florida? What about the kids in Georgia? What about the kids in every other state? Why is that not something that we should consider across the board? Right? If that's a problem, and it shouldn't happen here, it probably shouldn't happen anywhere. And so there really needs to be a broad brush approach. Now, the one thing that is happening is, again, the governor put out something when Daniel Prude happened last year, saying that all of the regions need to bring to the state some proposal of how they're going to transform their police, right? And so they've said that across the board. Apparently, those are due to the governor by April 1st. So our mayor she made public what their proposed strategy is going to be, the plan that they're presenting to the governor. That came out this week as well. And so there's some interesting things that they're talking about in that scenario wise, right? First of all, believe it or not, well, some people may believe, some people want it. She's proposing a smaller police force, less police instead of more. Instead of that, they want to hire on and take on more social workers.
How about some more people of color?
They're saying this is an interesting one. She's proposing that there be more people of color, up to 50%, because they're saying that the city right now is about 40%, 47% Black. But this is the interesting thing. Apparently, there is a restriction currently in the bylaws of the city that restricts the amount of minorities to no more than 25%.
What?
Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting.
So they can't take on more than 25% minority right now. A rule that got put into the city back in 1970, when the city was only 25% minority. They set up a rule that says you should not be more than 25%. It probably should have said, shouldn't be, if anything, it shouldn't be more than the population.
Right.
But it specifically said 25%. So ever since 1970, you haven't been allowed to have more than 25% African Americans or minorities in the city police department.
In city of Rochester.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that crazy?
I wonder how many other cities have that same rule or that same clause.
Or beyond cities, I mean, the sheriff's office, the state police, you got all kinds of these organizations. So it's interesting that rule even exists.
Yes, it is.
But you would think that you would want to have your police department representative of its community. So to do that, they got to first change that law. I think that's crazy.
It is crazy.
So that's being proposed. Also, they're proposing immediate terminations now for people. There was a big thing. So again, in Rochester, everybody has heard about the Daniel Prude issue.
Right.
And there was a huge thing that went back and forth between the mayor and, at that point, the chief of police, who she ended up firing. So this week, he was deposed over everything that happened in that time frame. They grilled that dude. I didn't tell you. They grilled that dude for like a whole day. It started at like 9:30 in the morning. I saw they took a break. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I saw in Cliff Notes on it. Took a break. And then it was like, I turned it on like 5 o'clock. They're still grilling that dude at 5 o'clock. I mean, they were going in, talking about, because it's supposedly an independent investigator. And so they're going through record after record, email after email, notes after notes, text message. They're going through everything. What did this mean and what happened? So, and I'm not saying that's for or against either side, but I'm saying they grilled through because they wanted to understand, bottom line, the relationship that was going on between the mayor and the chief of police. And so we'll see where that all ends up. But man, I couldn't believe, and it was public. He said he would only do it if it was made public, so the public could see what he was saying. So the whole thing was broadcast publicly, and they grilled through that. So we'll see where all that ends up. But you have all these things happening in terms of the police department and what they're trying to do, and what's going to make the right sense. But again, my concern, hopefully they take all these proposals that they get from all over the state. That's got to be a lot, right? But hopefully they come through this and find some best practices and say, look, hey, this is a good idea. We should do that all over the state, right? Yeah. This makes sense. Let's do that everywhere.
It makes sense.
Right. You know, hopefully they'll do that, because, you know, what good is it for every police department to have its own plan? I mean, there's some elements, this is specific to your area, to Rochester, specific to Buffalo, but there's got to be, a way to, I mean, they ought to be taking some of these and taking the best ideas and saying, okay, let's do these now across the state. Maybe we even need to do some of them across the country. I've been pushing for that for a while. Why aren't they dealing with this stuff across the country? So, because I mean, when George Floyd gets killed in one state, the problem there is significant to us here as well, or in New Jersey or wherever. Yes. If they shouldn't do it there, if they shouldn't put the neck on the knee there, they probably shouldn't do it
anywhere. Exactly.
So, or let's decide under what conditions is okay to do that or right to do that, and which ones it's not, and let's do it across the board.
Well, you know what? This is why people lean towards the thought of policing being a culture. It is my thought that we are still dealing, police training is still the training as when, I'm going to say it, when they were slave catchers. When have the police actually been retrained from that type of mindset? It's like they're shooting to kill. When you're a person of color, you may not come out alive.
Yeah, I mean, and people
talk about, and when they trained, I'm going to say the patrollers, back then, their motive and their goal was to kill you or maim you, and that is exactly what's happening now. Well, so they need to do a complete retraining. They need to do psychological evaluations. They need to do a lot of things when they choose police. You have to be very careful who's training the police,
right?
Because they seem to be training people or hiring people with the same mindset. And you have to deal with the mindset to deal with the heart of the police.
Part of that, I mean, a lot of that is common, because even in business, people tend to want to hire somebody that's like them.
Thinks like them, exactly.
And it goes beyond that. Looks like them, acts like them.
Yes.
And they feel like, hey, we're a natural fit. We're going to work
natural
together.
Fit, exactly. And if you don't fit into that culture or into that mindset, you're an outcast, right. Or you're not hired. You're an issue. You're a problem.
Right.
And
so we have to learn how to overcome that and really think diversely. And, I'll be totally honest, it's a natural thing. It happens in churches.
It happens
people
everywhere.
Take on people in churches.
It happens.
I don't want this person on our committee.
It happens at work.
I don't want this person.
It happens everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's a natural thing. We want to be around people like ourselves. But in order to grow and develop, you have to be able to expand beyond just people who are like you.
Exactly.
And that's a great challenge throughout society. So you have these different things that are going on in terms of the police department, and there is a real need to focus on how we improve on these things and get beyond.
Yes.
I was going to say earlier that people talk a lot about the difference in how people were treated during the insurrection at the White House,
in comparison to how
if you had a Black Lives Matter group out there doing that same thing, how that would be treated.
Yes.
There's a lot of questions, a lot of people watching right now, about how these things are being addressed.
And it's quite obvious.
I think
it is.
Yeah, the thing that makes this a reason why they're going to do more is because there were so many people in political power that were impacted by it.
Yes.
Because of that, they're going to be like, no, y'all need to go to jail. You need to do,
right. Because
they were put in serious personal jeopardy.
Well, that's what happens when you tend to keep people in a group that you all think alike. There's no one that can infiltrate or try to change the mindset. You end up with a big problem because everybody is thinking alike. Yeah. There's no one to make the difference.
Right. To bring you back to
and then you end up with a problem because you got the wrong people handling business or the wrong people in charge.
Well, maybe, you need somebody to say, hey, maybe that's not
the right thing. Maybe
we shouldn't
not.
just climb all over.
Exactly.
Probably shouldn't break out the windows.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that.
That might not be a good idea.
And that's not a good idea. Right? Maybe you need to calm down.
But when you have everybody just ramped and raged,
exactly.
This is what happens. So, there's a lot to be done. Obviously, there's more than just the change in president. There's a lot of real issues that need to be dealt with and tackled. And, whether we are, we as a country, we in terms of our leadership are truly ready to deal with some of these things. What tends to happen is things kind of push. And when they get too far, then it's okay. You got to knock that back.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what
then you got to pull it back.
Yeah. That's a lot of what happened. A lot of work. Because what happened on January 6th really hit over the edge.
Over the edge.
And so it caused kind of a universal, okay, that's too far.
Push it back,
get it back over to
here.
It may not go all the way back over here, but then you come back.
Let's pull it back.
It starts that momentum to say, okay, this has gone too far. We have to come back and rebalance wherever our equilibrium is going to be. So a lot of changes that are happening, and there's tons of things right now that the new president is trying to work on.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff. COVID is the major one, but there's a lot of stuff circling around us right now that are happening in terms of changing policies. All the policies related to overseas to foreign policy are being reestablished and changed. You got fiscal policy that's changing and trying to get under control. They're voting on giving all this money back to people, and that's another one that still just kind of bothers me a little bit. Not because they're giving all the they're sending the stimulus package through. But again, the counterbalance here of, is it more important to do it quickly, or is it more important to do it in a unified fashion? Right? Because right now they're weighing towards, look, we got to do it quickly, regardless of whether we can bring the Republicans online or not.
Right.
But the whole thing that he ran under was unity. Right. And so we got to work together. We got to be a team. We can come to agreement. And now we're like, look, we can't wait for y'all. We're going to do this anyway. Right. And so there's a real sticky balance between those two.
I understand that. Are the Republicans willing to come in and try to make that balance? Are they willing to come in with their thoughts, their opinions, and let's come to some type of agreement? Or are they stalling, and therefore he's like, okay, I got to do what I have to do?
Well, what they're doing is they're negotiating. Same thing that they all do, right? So they come in last week and they say, hey, look, we want to talk about this. We want to work something out. You want to give away 1.9 billion. We're into 600 million, right?
Yes.
Or actually trillion, 1.9 trillion versus 600 billion. This is big money.
That's big. About, yes.
Right.
Yes.
We said, we don't want to spend that much money. So here's our proposal, right? And then from there you negotiate, right? In a typical situation, you negotiate. Maybe, okay, not 1.9, maybe not 600, maybe it's 1 trillion. Maybe it's 1.3 trillion because we have the majority. You come to a compromise and then you get it out. But right now they're using, I don't want to say this in an offensive way, but they're using the excuse of saying, no, this is so urgent. We got to do it now. So we're going to do it if you can line up or don't line up, we're going to do it. Versus going through the process, which is the process it takes in government to say, okay, let's hear each other out. Let's work out something we can both sign on to, which is typically the best alternative. So they're trading that right off the bat to say, this is so urgent. We're going to compromise that priority of unity to do what we think needs to be done.
Yes.
And that to me is a problem.
It is
setting up for a problem in terms of how the government works. Because you could say everything that comes up is urgent right now.
Right.
And we got to do it. And we're not going to wait for you guys to get on board. So, it could have taken.
Like you said, they're going to try and find their best alternative.
Yeah.
There's a term we use, BATNA. BATNA.
What's BATNA?
The best alternative negotiation to an agreement.
I learned something today. BATNA. Y'all got that, right?
Yes.
Let's say, what is it again? It takes me a couple times.
The best alternative negotiation to an agreement.
To an agreement.
BATNA.
BATNA.
Best.
All right.
Alternative. Okay.
Okay.
To A negotiated agreement.
Best not.
Yes.
All right.
Find the best partner.
So, that's the issue though, is are you going to negotiate? Are you going to find the best alternative? Or are you just going to go what you think you should do? Because
and maybe he thinks that's his best alternative.
It's like, if me talking to my kids, right? And I could say, look, we're going to go to do this. We're going to go get ice cream. But Dad, we'd rather go to the movies, right? Well, I'm the dad. Yeah. I got the keys, right? I'm paying for it. So we're going to do what I want to do today. Right. And when you get keys and money and you taking me, then we'll do what you that's what happens with the government, back and forth. Right?
Exactly.
Instead of saying, okay, I want ice cream, you want the movies. Okay, let's
see if we can figure this out.
That sells ice cream.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. Let's work it out. Because it takes more time.
Yes.
And it means that you may not get everything you want and I may not get everything I want.
Right.
But ultimately, both sides can live together.
Yeah, well, we hope that we don't have a standoff and nothing gets done.
Well, see, that's the problem. Is you get 2 years of this. Right?
Exactly.
2 years we're in charge.
Exactly.
And then 2 years later, people say, okay, enough of that. And they vote somebody out. And now you got back to stalemate and nothing gets done. This is just back and forth.
Yeah.
So this is a real problem with the government that we just can't seem to get out of this loop. And the hope was that we would get out of it with Joe Biden. And, he's taking a big risk right now of doing it this way now, because it could cause all the rest of the negotiation after this to just be a disaster. So we'll see what happens. So our time is running up. And, we've talked about a lot of stuff today. We didn't talk about COVID yet, but, keep encouraging people. Please be careful. The good news is the COVID rates are dropping.
Yes.
That's all over the country. That's good news. The bad news is this week we had our highest single day death total. Over 5,000 people died in one day, which is the highest ever. At that rate, you could lose 150,000 people dead in a month. That's terrible. So it's not over yet. You still have to be careful. You still have to be conscious. Yes, masks are a wise thing to do.
Please wear your mask.
Wear your mask.
I still have masks. Selling masks, making masks. Yes.
Be safe. Be wise in the things that you're doing. People are still dying. The death rate is right around 1.5% for people who get COVID. That's still, that's still a lot of people.
Yes, and it's very sad.
1 to 2 out of every 1,000 around you is still too much. The vaccines are helping.
Yes.
So, even with the J&J one, which we talked about last week, it's like 67%. And that's still going to be funny because it's 67% effective. It's less effective. Number one, it is 100% effective against hospitalization and death. So all of the vaccines will at least help you not get killed.
Help you live.
You may still get the virus, especially if it's 67% effective, but you'll live through it versus being at risk of dying because of it. Right. So the vaccines are definitely still the right direction to go regardless. But this argument of who's going to get the 100% ones or 95% ones, and here's the problem, right? The 67 one can be kept in a normal refrigerator versus the other ones have to be in super cold. And who can afford to have super cold refrigeration around them?
All the time.
People who got money, right? In communities that got money, right? Pharmacies that have money, hospitals that have money.
Yes,
those are the ones that are going to have those kind of refrigerators.
Exactly.
Right? What you going to do in the rural area?
What are you going to do?
Put in a refrigerator. So you need the J&J one.
Yes.
Right. So people who are in poor areas by definition are going to more than likely experience the J&J ones, while people in other richer areas are more than likely to be exposed to the Pfizer one and the other one.
There goes the divide again. There it is.
It just happens. The way
it's just the way it is.
It's society is just built to support that.
Yes.
So either one is better than none.
Exactly.
So keep that in mind as time rolls on, and these vaccines are going to continue to roll out over the next few months. But be conscious, be careful, be safe. We want you around the next few months and with us. So we can go on vacation again, right?
I miss my people.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
It's about that time. I'm getting sleepy, I think.
Yeah.
It's time for us to do some other stuff.
We have some very long days, and we're not done yet.
Yep, got to get ready for tomorrow.
Yes.
All that kind of good stuff. So it's time for us to
going on here.
Out of here.
Yes.
And we look forward again to being with you again next week. Yes. Jacqueline, praise the Lord to you. Good to see you on.
Hi.
Good to see you connected.
Jacqueline Boykin, my people.
Tori was here as well. we're glad to have everybody. So we will look forward to seeing everybody next Saturday. We will be back. And of course, we'll be here tomorrow morning as well with our 11:30 a.m. service.
Yes.
Sunday morning. Thank you. 11:30 Sunday morning service.
Eastern time.
That's right.
8
we got a good
Eastern
word
time.
for you. Gonna have good worship. We had a great service last Sunday.
Yes, we did.
We're going in that flow this Sunday. And then, of course, throughout the week, stay tuned. All the stuff that's coming up. Wednesday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights. We'll tell you more next time. We got to go. I'm tired. All right? Got work to do. Okay. God bless everybody. Take care of yourself. We will see you
God
again
bless.
next week. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Someday the world is much brighter. Come on.